Welcome! Today I will be talking about my IB 2020 experience. First off, I don't actually wear glasses. I've just been told that they make me look smarter. And if TOK has taught me one thing, is that people will always fall for a call to authority. So if I look smart, maybe you'll take me seriously. Anyways, I have my talking points on this piece of paper right here that cover the main 5 things that I think are really important to consider when you are taking IB, and so I guess I'll just start with that. If you don't know what IB is a diploma program for the last 2 years of high school. So your junior and your senior year. It stands for International Baccalaureate, and if you are looking into this video, then you are probably A, a student going into your junior year and considering the IB program, or B, a student that has just started the IB program and you're wondering if anyone else is suffering the way that you are. I'm here to tell you that yes, indeed, everyone suffers through the IB. You will get through it, I promise. Though, the IB 2020 experience is clearly very different than everyone else's because we don't have an exam this year. I still think it's valuable to just talk about the general IB aside from the exam and give some advice on how to get through that part of your life. First off, I'm going to talk about classes and course selection. For your classes, you will be taking 6 classes, which will have 3 standard level classes and 3 higher level classes. You will also be taking a class called TOK, which I will get into later. To complete your diploma program, you'll also need to write an EE, complete your CAS experiences, and complete IAs in each of your classes. If you don't know what any of those mean, don't worry, I'll get into that. So for classes and course selection, my classes were standard level math, standard level global politics, and standard level English literature, and then higher level chemistry, higher level biology, and higher level French. I chose my classes based on what I wanted to do with my life. Because I want to go into a STEM field, I knew that I would have to have chemistry and biology as my top HL classes. I then chose French as my easy HL as I am fluent in French. That was just a way to take that workload off of my HLs because I knew that I could get through that class relatively easily. Then my SLs, obviously math is a required SL that you have to take. And then global politics and English were just classes that I knew that I would enjoy. When you are picking your classes, the first thing I would say to do is to look into what you want to do when you go into college. Look into what countries you want to go to, what school you want to go to, what major you want to do, and what their requirements are. I know that the US is a lot more lenient on what the requirements are for your application, but schools in Europe and in the UK tend to be very specific about what they want. Because I knew I wanted to study in the UK, I went directly to the school's website and looked up my major, and then within the major description, they had all of the requirements for whatever diploma program you were taking. They had for GCSE, for AP, for IB, all of those. I just went and looked for that information and tailored my classes to that. They were mostly targeted at what my HLs should be. So once I had my HLs set out, I just picked my SLs based on what I wanted to do. I just based my SLs on things that I like to do. So this is very important. When you are picking your classes, make sure that you are picking classes that you know you will enjoy. Because if you don't like them, you're going to be spending 2 years studying them and feel horrible and miserable every time you step into the classroom. You don't want that to be you. Make sure you are taking these classes to enjoy them and have fun. Personally, I think English Lit was probably one of my most fun classes. We had a very small class size. Our teacher was very into teaching the subject, and we got to read some really good books and have really good discussions, which are all things that I really enjoyed, and I really liked that experience. So when picking your SLs, make sure you're giving yourself a bit of a break and taking something that you know you'll like. Next, IAs. IA stands for Internal Assessment, which is something you're going to have to do in all of your classes, though its format may vary a little for each class. IAs are actually probably not that hard. You just need to get them done, and that's probably the biggest issue. At our school, I know they tried to stagger the start and end of each IA and when we would have to turn it in, but that didn't really pan out very well for kids who had multiple classes in the same group. So science kids like me, who took 2 or 3 sciences, ended up having 2 or 3 IAs due within the same week. I know some other kids who took maybe 3 social sciences, business, econ, psychology, ESS. All of these were due around the same time. So just make sure that you are working on them whenever you have time and just getting them out of the way. The biggest pieces of advice that I would give for your IAs is 1, get them done. Don't drag them on more than they have to, and just spend as much time as you can working on them so that they're out of the way and you don't have to think about them ever again. 2, if you are taking a double science, our school gave us the opportunity to do a database bio IA. If your school gives you that option and you are taking a double science in which the other science is a mandatory lab IA, I would say do the database. That's not to say that the database IA is much easier. It does have its drawbacks as well. Next, TOK. What is TOK? TOK stands for Theory of Knowledge, and the best way I could describe it is like a philosophy class. Within the TOK course, you'll have to do 1 presentation and 1 essay. For TOK, I'd say it may feel useless. I definitely had times where I did not like going to TOK because I felt like it was just a waste of time, but they're really easy points to get. So listen in class, and if you're not listening, there's plenty of resources online if you look them up. For the presentation, I worked in a group of 3, and that worked really well for me. We were able to share the workload with each other and bounce ideas off of each other, which then allowed us to have a deeper understanding of our arguments. Then for the essay, I spent maybe 2 weeks writing it and then turned it in. IB curates a list of about 6 questions for you to pick. These are typically broader questions that you have to think a little bit more about to understand, and then you have to apply them to a real life example. The thing about TOK is that they'll want you to make it personal. The whole point of TOK is to make you a more critical thinker. They want you to take these theories and applying them to the real world in which you're living in. Next is CAS. CAS stands for Creativity, Activity, and Service. For creativity, I did Battle of the Bands. Activity, I joined sports teams. The bulk of my service work actually came from opportunities given to me by my school. Make sure you're taking every opportunity that your school gives you. Whether that be join a club or extracurriculars or do service work with your school, do it. It's so much easier to do it through the school when it's all already set and all organized for you instead of going out and trying to find service work that you can do. If there are opportunities to get CAS experiences at school, do them. Next, I would say log your CAS experiences as soon as you do them. If you're doing service work over an entire week and you only write your reflection at the end of the week, you're not going to remember everything that happened throughout your 5 days of working with a certain service partner or going on a certain field trip. Log your experiences as soon as you get them done. That way you're not missing any details and you won't forget anything. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the dreaded EE, the extended essay, 4,000 words of hell. Joking. It's really not that bad if you know how to manage your time. So how the EE works is that you can basically choose a subject in any of the IB groups that interests you and just write about it. I did a French EE in literature in which I explored how the portrayal of the feminine experience in Molière's L'École des Femmes is quite similar to the current day feminine experience as well. This was a subject that really interested me, and the literature aspect was just a bonus for me as well because this was something that I find really exhilarating. I know some students that did theirs on video games, students did them on film, others did it on mathematical theories that really interested them. The range of things you can do for your EE is endless. Make sure you pick something that you enjoy writing and talking about, because if you pick something that you really don't like, 4,000 words is... I actually got the bulk of my EE work done over the summer. I worked on it on and off throughout my break, but every time that I did, I sat for about an hour to half an hour, sometimes even 2 hours, just doing research, creating my plan, writing my draft, editing, all of that. IB says to allocate about 40 hours to your EE, but I think I probably ended up spending more than 40 hours on it. Our school actually presented us with the EE at the end of junior year so that we had the entirety of the summer and up until our final submission to work on it. Since I got most of it done before school started, I was already at a pretty good point. All I was missing was the conclusion, which was probably about 300 words. But what ended up happening is those 300 words lasted me from August all the way until December. So if that was me with 300 words, imagine what it would be like if I hadn't started my EE at all. I just would not have gotten it done, period. So if you can work on your EE over the summer and get the bulk of it done, do it. Lastly, I would say make sure you keep good connection with your supervisor. I know some students that didn't talk to their supervisor at all, and for some people that works, but for me, because I already knew my supervisor, I really liked her, she was a teacher I'd had in the past, I really enjoyed going in and talking with her, bouncing ideas off of her and asking her to edit some of my grammar because, let's be honest, French grammar is a little difficult. Even if I wasn't necessarily talking to her, I would go to her class outside of school hours and just sit and work. I would suggest having a baseline number of meetings that you should have with your supervisor. When you first meet with them, make sure you are setting out a plan that on this day you will meet, on this day you will meet, and on this day you will meet, and on each of those days you'll have this, this, and this done. Having a plan will then help ensure that you are getting everything you need to do done and not dragging it on for longer than it has to. I know that I probably didn't have the most orthodox IB experience, what with not having an exam and all, but one thing that I did appreciate from taking the IB is learning to manage my time. This is a really important point in IB. It's balance and time management. Knowing how to balance your academic life with your fun and friends, as well as managing your time with getting all of your work done for each of your classes, but also still having enough time to relax and actually sleep. This is very important. Please make sure you are sleeping or you will be miserable. Overall, I think IB wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It just required a little more organization. That's something that I learned throughout my IB experience. I hope that this video maybe answered some of your questions that you had, alleviated a little bit of stress that you may have had about your IB program. Ultimately, just get through it. I'm sure you'll be perfectly fine. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. I might also make another video on some more general IB tips, as well as maybe the college application process. So look out for those in the future, hopefully. If you made it to the end, thanks, and I'll see you next time, I guess.